Welcome back. This is a formal affair, activity 3.1. In this activity, we're going to solve two-step equations using the formal method, using the inverse operations. All right, I'll read. It says, throughout this topic, you have written and solved two-step equations. A two-step equation requires two inverse operations or applying two properties of equality to isolate the variable. Demarius, Calvin, and Isaac each solved 2x plus 6 is equal to 13, what we just solved, in a different way. Analyze their solution strategies. Question number 1 says, compare the strategies used by Demarius and Calvin. Question number 2 says, compare the strategies used by Demarius and Isaac. Now, in a second, I'm going to tell you to pause here so that you can answer these questions. However, while you are answering and looking at these students' work, I want you to think about what is the same, what is different, what strategies are they using, and are they getting the same answers? So ask yourself those questions as you're comparing, and don't be afraid to annotate and mark it up. All right, at this time, set your timer for about 4 to 5 minutes. Pause here. You're answering 1 and 2. Alrighty, now that you've had some time to work, let's go over number 1 first. So we were to compare Demarius and Calvin. Alrighty, when you looked at their work, you could have seen that they both divided as their first step and they subtracted second. However, Calvin's answer is wrong because he did not divide all of the terms or I'll leave it there, all of the terms in the expression by 2. So if you look at Calvin's work, he divided 2x by 2 and 13 by 2, but he also should have divided that 6 by 2 as well. Everything on each side of the equation gets divided. If you also noticed that and got the same answer as me, then pat yourself on the back. Moving on to number 2. When comparing Demarius and Isaac's work, they both solved correctly, just in opposite orders. So Isaac subtracted first and then divided to isolate the variable. So notice, they took 2 different paths, but in the end, they got to the same answer. If you also notice that, go ahead and give yourself another quick pat on the back. Alrighty, now it is time for you to practice. So go ahead and turn to question number 3, and also question number 4 we'll look at the same time. But question 3 says, solve each equation by first applying either the addition or subtraction property of equality. So 3A, B, C, and D, you're solving using the subtraction and addition property of equality first. And notice number 4, notice number 4 is similar. It says solve each equation by first applying either the multiplication or division property of equality first. So for number 3, you're solving using adding and subtracting first. And then number 4, you're going to first divide and multiply, similar to what Isaac did. Similar to what Demarius did, and number 3 is similar to what Isaac did. Before you start, something important to note, this note off to the side here. It says to make the addition and subtraction simpler, you can leave fractions in improper form. They already have a common denominator. So when you start dividing and multiplying and you won't get a real pretty whole number, you can just leave it, for example, as 25 over 14, 25 fourteenths. That's just an example. Alrighty, time to practice. At this time, I want you to set a timer for about 15 minutes, give or take, depending on how much time you have, about 15 minutes, and you're going to work on questions 3A, B, C, D, and also questions 4A, B, C, and D. If 15 minutes is not enough time to do all four in each question, prioritize two. So, for example, prioritize 3A, 3B, and 4A and 4B so that you can get that practice in. Alrighty, at this time, pause here, set your timer for about 15 to 20 minutes to practice. Pause here. Now that you've had plenty of time to work on questions 3 and also questions 4, I'm going to compare or go ahead and compare your work to mine. So for 3A, when you added and subtracted first, notice in black I added 10 to both sides and then I divided by 2 and my x is equal to 33. For 3B, I subtracted 25 from both sides and then I divided by 6 and x is equal to 9. For 3C, I added 14 to both sides, then divided by 4. My answer was 10 and 2/4, which then simplifies to be 10 and a half. And for 3D, x is equal to 66. I subtracted 13 first, and then I multiplied both sides by 3. Remember, x over 3, if it's a fraction, that means division because you're dividing x divided by 3. If you need a moment to take these notes, go ahead and pause here. Alrighty, for 4A through D, you were to multiply and divide first, and then add and subtract. So for 4A, I divided both sides by 2, and then I added 5. X is 33. For 4B, I divided both sides by 6, and then I subtracted, and this is where that improper fraction comes in. 25 divided by 6 doesn't give me a whole pretty number, so I left it improper. 25 over 6, and then also 79 divided by 6 doesn't also give us a pretty whole number, so 79 divided by 6. I kept it as that, and then I was able to subtract 25/6 from both sides, which then gave me 54/6, and that simplifies to be 9. For 4C, I divided 4 by both sides, and if you haven't caught on yet, notice the numbers that I'm dividing are all numbers that are right next to the variable, are right next to x. Reason being, just a reminder, if a number and a letter are squished together like that, that operation is multiplication. So the opposite of that is division. So I divided by 4, and then I added, also kept it improper, then I added 14/4 to both sides. Sorry if it's a little cut off. But then that gave me 52/4, and x simplified to be 13. And for 4D, I multiplied times 3 on both sides because they were originally dividing by 3. And then I subtracted 39 from both sides, and that gave me x is equal to 66. If you need to pause here to take some notes, go ahead and do that now. What I also want you to notice is the answers. Notice the problems for A, B, C, and D are exactly the same, and so are the answers. We took two different paths just like, who was it? Demarius and Isaac, but still got the same result. We got the same answer. With that being said, now go ahead and turn to question 5. It says, consider the equations and your solutions in questions 3 and 4, just like we did. Do you prefer one order over the other? If so, why? If your preference changes depending on the equation, explain why. So at this time, I want you to go ahead, take about a minute, just one, and write your answer to this question. Pause here. Now, our answers will vary. This is more so a you answer. So, at the conclusion of this video, I want you to discuss with a neighbor which method do you prefer, and why. Alrighty, this includes activity 3.1. I will see you in the next video.